Welcome to Everyday Martial Artist, a weekly podcast where you'll join me, Brian Doucette, as I interview a different martial artist each episode and hear their story. Some guests you may have heard of, and some you probably haven't. Be sure to subscribe where all your favorite podcasts are available. Also visit our website at everydaymartialartist.com. If you're listening for a specific interview, I sure hope you'll stay and check out the other episodes. A very special thank you to Topher Williams for our custom theme music. And now, the newest episode of Everyday Martial Artist. Everyday Martial Artist is brought to you by KOOnline.com for all your martial arts needs. Sparring and safety gear, rank belts, uniforms, weapons, patches, and more. Wholesale supplies made by martial artists for martial artists. Visit us today at ko-online.com. Hello and welcome to Everyday Martial Artist. I'm your host, Brian Doucette, and as we do every week, we're joined by a brand new guest talking about their life and their journey throughout the martial arts. My guest today grew up in Chicago. He joined the police force and served 4 years as a Cook County deputy sheriff, helping to develop the Special Operations Resistance Team. He's worked as an actor, stunt coordinator, fight choreographer, and second unit director. He's the author of 2 books and has several instructional videos. In Hollywood, you've seen his work in such projects as The Sensei, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, The Rock, Jag, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, Alias, just to name a few. He's also the first ever on my show to make up the one half of my first husband and wife guests. Please welcome my guest today, Mr. Ron Balicki. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm good. That's funny. The first half.
That's right. Yeah, I was honored to have Diana on the show last year, and it's pretty cool to have you. And I'm also working on my first father-son interviews, hopefully in the next month or two. So fingers crossed on that one. But yeah, you're the first. Cool. You're the first husband and wife, so that's awesome.
Cool. The better. Well, she's the better half.
So, I wasn't going to say that, but
yeah,
that's okay.
I almost said it the wrong way. I butt whooped.
There you go. Well, hey, she did a great interview. She got a lot to live up to. So we'll see how this goes. But what we do with all my guests, I want to go back to the very beginning. I want to know where that first spark came from, that first interest that kicked off your martial arts journey.
Oh God, like probably most everybody else, Bruce Lee.
Nice.
It's just, I'm an old guy now. I was born in 1963. So, the whole Bruce Lee mania thing was just coming in. There was the Green Hornet, and I remembered all that, and I was like, I had to be part of it. But, it was a different deal back then because there weren't martial arts schools on every corner like we have today. So I would say my first taste would be at a local YMCA, a judo class.
Okay.
And I did that for just a little bit, but I ended up finding a kung fu school that was short-lived, and then that closed down. And then some guy in my neighborhood was teaching karate, and I started to do that. And I stuck it out there for a while.
Okay. Do you remember what style of karate that was?
Yeah, Shorin-ryu.
Oh, very cool. Nice. I've had quite a few guests with a Shorin-ryu background. That seems to be it. I've never had it in my area. No place I've ever lived has had it, and I've never personally trained in it, but a lot of my guests seem to have backgrounds in Shorin-ryu, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, it was kind of big in Chicago. I ended up going to eventually I found like a brick and mortar school, and it was Genki Academy, and it was in Chicago, right in the, not downtown Chicago, but like Milwaukee Avenue. It's like a pretty popular place. And I stuck it out there. My instructor's name was Jerry Weiss. He's still around. He's still doing his thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a karate boy for a long time.
Nice. So think back to maybe those first handful of classes. Once you got into it, you wanted to do it because of seeing Bruce Lee and it was something interesting. But once you got in, what was it that made you stick with it and made you really want to keep going?
Oh God, I don't know. I've always been into it. My brother was a Golden Gloves boxer, so I was his punching dummy for years. And karate was very different. You know that.
Yes.
But I mean, I enjoyed it. I liked it, but I found that I just wanted to kind of research and look at it into other stuff. I mean, I loved what was going on with the karate, but I had been reading about obviously the whole Bruce Lee stuff, and I kept seeing this guy Inosanto next to him, and obviously Bruce Lee was dead and gone by that time in my life. So I had contacted the Inosanto Academy, and actually I got to speak to him back then, and wow. He was back, it was, I know it's a wild question. So for those viewers who don't know him, he's pretty hard to talk to just because of his popularity. He doesn't go near the phone now, but he said, hey, I go to this academy called Degerberg Academy, and that was in Chicago. And so I looked that up, and they were doing a lot of really progressive stuff. So I ended up joining that academy, training there. And then when Sifu Dan or Guru Dan, depending on who you're talking to or class you're in, would come into Chicago, he would teach at that academy. So I just started following him, researching him, and just looking. And I was pretty hungry for everything.
Wow.
And I found some really good people who knew the art really well, and I just became students of theirs. A man named Larry Lindemann. I don't know if you know Larry,
The name
but
sounds familiar. I don't think I've ever met him, but the name
he's
sounds familiar.
awesome. He'd be an awesome guest for you too.
Oh,
Honestly,
okay.
he's a former Illinois State Trooper, but he wasn't back then. But he was an Inosanto guy who was an instructor under him. He and another guy named Mike Knopf.
Okay.
And I was a leech. They couldn't get rid of me. So, I just wanted to learn. I ragdolled from him. He'd demo with me and beat the snot out of me. And you really learn a lot by that. You really do.
Yep.
Taking the lumps. Yeah, I was with the Dagobert Academy with Fred Dagobert doing his stuff. And then I was with Dan Inosanto doing his stuff.
So how old were you when you first met Dan?
16.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
He was medicine for me back then.
Yeah.
I had just, I don't know if you know this about me, but I was shot.
Oh.
I was shot in a drive-by, and a friend of mine was killed. My other friend was shot, and then I was shot. And I was just pissed off at the world back then. And I thank God for actually Dagobert Academy and for Guru Dan Inosanto, because it just gave me direction when I really, really needed it. I was putting my energy into that instead of the streets and all the bad stuff that was going on in Chicago back then.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
I definitely want to get to the part where you moved to California, but I want to back up just a little. When you were involved in the karate, did you get involved in the competition at all?
A little bit.
Okay.
I competed in a couple matches, and I've heard this story from others, so it's probably going to be a repeat. But it was like every time I got into trouble, my boxing came out more than my karate. And I'm not putting down karate.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've gone with some great guys, and they'll tune you up. But I was boxing so much with my brother that was coming out of me, and my instructor wasn't real pleased with that because it wasn't what he was doing.
Right.
You know what I mean? That. So, yeah. So I had competed a little bit with that, and then after the karate years, I had competed in some kickboxing stuff through Dagobert Academy. I have a horror story about me competing in a S.O.R.T tournament.
Really?
Yeah. I was about 161, 165, and I had to drop to 150. And it was like the fight was in I think November. So September, October, November, I'm running, I'm cutting weight, and I got a simple cold.
Oh.
And instead of it, the doctor said if it would have gone on in my lungs, it would have been pneumonia, but it went into my kidneys and caused renal failure.
Dang.
So they were saying with like a lot of the weight that I was dropping, I guess my immune system dropped along with it. And the day of the fight, I felt like poop. It was just horrible. And they're like, do you want to fight? I'm like, yeah, I'm fighting. I dropped all this weight. I made it, and I'm going to fight. And I got in the ring, and 30 seconds in, I started to be like, oh my God, I could just feel myself like, like could barely breathe. I was having a hard time.
Wow.
I made it through the whole fight. I lost. And actually the guy I fought, Robin, he's actually a friend of mine now. He's a really good guy. I have a funny story about him right now, but his name's Robin Price. Awesome fighter, and it was his match. He took it, and you could always say, "Oh, I lost because of this or that." I lost. Mm-hmm. But it's so great because today Robin and I hang out, and it's this guy that I fought. He lived in California. I lived in Chicago. Now that I'm out here, he and his wife and my wife will go out and do stuff together. And he was training with me. He went to one of my seminars. Believe it or not, it's so funny. I fought this guy. He's at my seminar, but it was great because. I was showing some technique, and I throw Robin on the ground. He's laying there, and he goes to get up. I'm like, wait, just stay there. And I'm talking to everybody, and Robin's laying there. And he goes, Kevin, like, wait, just stay there. And after a while, he looks at me like, why? I go, I just always wanted to see this, him laying on the ground. And he's like, he got up. He wanted to kill me after that. I thought the fight was going to be back on.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's just fun. Almost everybody I've ever fought in the ring were really good relationship with. I think you become brothers, and whoever gets to raise their hand at the end, it's not a big deal. The way I look at it, it's not a life or death thing. It's a game.
Yeah.
And you just get that bond with a lot of these guys. To this day, I mean, I still talk to almost everybody I've ever fought with outside of like the Tokyo guys. And when I've seen one or two of them when I've gone back there. But, like Greg Nelson, I don't know if you know Greg Nelson is out of Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
He and I fought. Yep. And I've tried to be there for him during hard times, and he's definitely been there for me. So I don't even know how I segue onto all this. Sorry about that.
No, that's cool. And I've actually been trying to get Greg in the show for a while because I know one of his students runs a school in Fargo across the river, and he was one of my first guests. Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I've met Greg. I used to judge MMA, so I've met Greg many times.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's awesome. I love the guy to
Yeah,
death. He's so cool.
that is cool.
Yeah, he and I fought in shoot wrestling.
Oh, okay, cool. My God,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
definitely competed in a lot of different stuff. That's cool.
yeah. That's a funny story too. If I could steal this
Go
again,
ahead. Go
I'm
ahead.
just thinking about. All right, so Greg comes out to fight me, and back then we were just kind of still kids, and I was still fighting amateur, and he was fighting an amateur shoot, and he didn't have anywhere to live, so he lived with me. So we got to fight each other at the end of the week, but we're living together. So he's living in
Wow.
my apartment. Yeah, and just like we're messing with each other the whole time. I think I made a little recording on a tape or something, and he woke up to, I can't make it. I'm not going to win against Ron. It was me just coaching him while he was sleeping, and
That's
and he's doing
awesome.
stuff to me. But we beat the snot out of each other, and then we went out and had a meal and a beer together. It was great.
That's
So
so cool. That's awesome.
we were a draw. We both. It was cool. We both had our hands raised. They said we were the fight of the night. We just tore into each other. It was great.
That's awesome. And that's how it should be. I think so, a lot of, maybe it's more just on the MMA side, but I know a lot of those guys I've seen that don't get along afterwards, but that's how it should be with martial arts.
Yeah. Like a lot, I love MMA. As you know, I fought in it.
Yep.
Martial arts is supposed to teach character, not turn you into a character. And I feel a lot of it has gone like the WWE kind of way.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's like, I remember the days of, like you bump into somebody and you flap your hands on your side and you bow and you, excuse me, sir. Now it's like, who the hell, who the F are you bumping into? You want to fight, and
Yep.
I'm just so surprised at that new culture around it, and I'm hoping it gets back to that. It's where it should be.
I think it will. I hope to. I definitely, that's one reason I got out of judging MMA. It's just, I couldn't handle it anymore. I just didn't enjoy it like I used to. So I get it completely. But so I'm curious, while you were at the academy in Chicago and while you were at that school, before you moved to California, did you get involved in the teaching side when you were still there, or did that come much later?
No. I definitely got involved in it.
Okay.
I went through Fred Degerberg's system, Master Degerberg. I don't know if you know who Fred is.
No.
Oh my God. Yeah. Look him up. He's worth a look.
Okay.
He's a character within itself. You ever see Above the Law, a Seagal movie?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
All right. He goes to the bar and he keeps banging bumping the guy. Hey, you see this girl? And there's this bald guy with a Fu Manchu.
Yep.
That's him. Okay. That's Fred.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Nice.
So he was a big deal within Asano. He's the guy who brought in Asano out. He's the reason why I know people like Rick Fay and Greg Nelson and Dave Leach and all those guys, because Fred put me in that circle.
Rick's been on the show. I interviewed Rick a little over a year ago. So Rick's a good
love
guy.
Rick.
Yep.
Another Minnesotans are awesome. Honestly, I'm not even just saying it to placate you or anything, but they've just been great. We'll go in the gym and tear each other up, and then after everybody's laughing, and again, that more character. There's a lot of character. Maybe that's Rick Fay's doing, because he's kind of like the father of all that there.
It could be.
And Rick's been nothing but kind and nice to me. So
what drew you to the teaching side of things then?
Well, at Degerberg Academy, I was training there for a long, long time. And they didn't really have a Kale Junfan Silat program there. When I say Junfan, the Jeet Kune Do stuff,
yes.
Bruce Lee stuff. Okay. They didn't have that. And I was really hitting that stuff really hard. And I became an instructor under an Asanto around 86, 87, something like that.
Okay.
And Larry Lindemann, who I had talked about, and Mike Nuff. Mike had already left. Larry was leaving, and Fred, well, not even before Larry left, Fred Degerberg asked me, will you take those classes? So I just started to teach.
Okay.
For him. So I would teach, I think I had a Tuesday, Thursday night class for years at the Degerberg Academy. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So what made you decide to take the jump and the big leap and move to California? Was it pretty much about Dan, or was it more than other reasons too?
No. I was on the sheriff's department. I was a deputy sheriff in Chicago, stationed in Chicago. And you got to do your first year in a jail. And after that, they throw you out to wherever assignments. I think a lot of sheriff's departments do that, is they'll throw you in the jail for a year to see if you're worth your salt, to see if it's for you or just see if it's for you. And then after that, I went into a different unit, and I just wasn't, I liked being on the sheriff's department, but I didn't love being on the sheriff's department. Does that make sense? I don't know. It's just, I didn't know if I wanted it for life.
Yes.
And I wasn't happy. And Guru Dan, he's like, Inosanto. I'll just say Dan Inosanto for your viewers. Dan Inosanto, I would kind of like, I guess, probably whine, I'm not, I don't know how I feel about it. And he just said, hey, if you want to come to California, you can, work at the academy and get you established there.
Wow.
And I just remember my father, I thought he was going to kill me because later in life, my dad was cool with it. But at first he's like, wait, let me get this straight. You got a job that's going to give you benefits and pension, and you work so hard to get in there, and you're going to leave to go do martial arts. And he just did that. I still remember that head shake thing, like, you flipping little idiot, and look, I wasn't married. I didn't owe anybody any money. And I wanted that. I wanted to be Dan Inosanto like everybody else, and I figured the only way to do that is just immerse. So I packed my stuff up, like kind of like the Beverly Hillbillies, and I moved on to California. I ran the Inosanto Academy for a few years, and then just kind of started doing my own thing.
That's really cool. Wow. So what? How different were the classes at Dan's Academy compared to Dagerberg? Was it fairly similar since he was the one who taught them, or were there variances?
No, obviously there are little variances, but Dagerberg was a heavy sparring school. He had a big boxing background, Fred Dagerberg. So we're always, gear up. You're gonna spar. Be it stick sparring or glove up. In boxing, kickboxing. So when I got to the Inosanto Academy, I think the difference was it was more of an isolation on the class you were doing. Like at Dagerberg, he had a blend. It would be a blend of Kali, JKD, Silat, Thai boxing, shoot wrestling, blah, 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 all these things mashed together in one class. Where at the Inosanto Academy, as you're in a Junfang class, we're doing straight Junfang Gung Fu Jeet Do. You're in a Thai class, you're doing straight Thai boxing. And that's what you're doing for that duration of the class. So it isolated a lot more.
Okay. And I know, most people I've talked to, I've never met Dan. When I lived in California, I tried stopping into his school twice, and he wasn't there either time, so I've never actually got to meet him. But I know a lot of, from everything I've read and everything I've heard about him, he was always so open and encouraged his students to try other things and try their art. So did he point you in any certain direction, or was it just more your own mind looking for other stuff?
No. He definitely pointed me towards other people. And he did do that. Like, you know what? It gets to the point where you think he doesn't like you. He's like, hey, why don't you go to this school? And you're like, but I want to train under you. And he goes, I'd really like you to do this. Like, a lot of people don't know this, but he paid for me to go to Indonesia. He bought my ticket.
Wow.
So he wanted me to go to Indonesia. I spent a little over a month in Indonesia, and I went and I had through Herman Sawanda. I don't know if you ever heard of Herman Sawanda.
No.
Mande Muda, Penchak Salat. He's gone now. He passed away, but he set me up with a bunch of instructors. So I would go and spend a few days with this guy, travel to another village, spend a few days with this guy, and I was just training.
Wow.
And when I got back, Dan Inosanto said, all right, Silat class, Ron, go. And I was like, what? And he goes, show them what you got. And I would start to just purge everything that I learned there. Wow. And he would do that with others, too. So, he was really, really good about, you got something, show it, and he's truly probably the most, I don't know how to say this. There's no ego to the guy.
Yeah.
There really isn't. Like if you're good, he will put that white belt on and he'll learn. He has no qualms about it. And the thing I like about him, like a lot of times I know he was in like a Brazilian jiu-jitsu class, and I'm like, wow, I go, he would talk to me about like the day and what he trained, and he'd say, oh, that guy got me. And I go, he got you? And he goes, yeah. I go, you didn't, why, I would ask him, why you didn't do this or that or something like that? And he would go, Ron, I'm there to learn their art. I'm not going to use Kali or Silat or shoot wrestling. I tried to use what I'm being taught in that class to get me out of trouble.
Nice.
And for somebody like me,
yeah,
I'm sorry, my ego's, it's like, oh, he's going to get me. I'm going to do this to get away from you, or to get free or to not have to tap you. Yep. And that's where he's like, no, I'm there for this class. If I get taken, it's because I'm not doing this justice. It means I got to work harder at it. And I really do respect it. In my older years, I think I respect it more.
That's cool. And I'm the same way. I'm like you. I'm, I've studied multiple styles, and if I'm new in a class, I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, the first time I moved to California, and I moved out there specifically to learn American Kempo. My dad was the same way. He's like, you're doing what? And I moved out there to train with Jeff Speakman and Larry Tatum, and I was training the first day at this American Kempo school, and I remember the lady was kind of turned me off from the school at the time, because I was there like in a private lesson. And as I was working with her, these other two students are walking in, and she went over and talked to them, and they were deciding between that school and a Taekwondo school. And I originally was going to say, hey, every Taekwondo school I've seen here they're all sport, versus the Taekwondo I had my background in was more traditional. But before I could say that, she's like, well, Taekwondo doesn't really work. This gentleman's a black belt in Taekwondo. Let me demonstrate. And I'm like, okay. So she goes, show me your best kick. And she holds her hand up. I'm like, well, can you at least get a pad? She's like, I'll be fine. No, just get a pad. And I did at the time. What was my best kick was a jump spinning knife foot, like to the head. And that pad just flew. And she's like, damn, and like shaking her hand, and the kids got up and walked out. Nice. And I'm like, don't do that when I'm standing here.
Two things. I worked out with some Kempo guys this morning, so it was kind of cool.
Nice.
Yeah. And I got a couple Taekwondo instructors. I'm not a big Taekwondo guy, not because I don't like it, because I'm not great at it. How do I explain this? When I got shot, I had a lower body injury to where a lot of the stuff really, really affected it. And I think I shied away. If I would have stuck at it, obviously it would have improved. But I was young and stupid back then. I was like, that kick's not for me. And I kind of like got away from it. And now that I'm with, like, I train, I don't know if you know who Bren Foster is. You ever hear Bren?
I've heard the name. I've definitely.
Yeah, if you watch a TV series called The Last Ship, he was the Australian commando guy on it. But his martial arts, Simon Rhee, I'm sure you probably heard of Simon.
Yep, Simon's been on the show.
That's the best. Yeah, so Simon Rhee, Bren Foster, and then a couple guys in Europe. I look at their Taekwondo and I go, I was such a fool. I should have stayed with them, because they're functional. They can make that stuff work. Simon's great, and Bren Foster, look him up. He's an animal.
Okay.
Yeah. And his stuff is just scary. Nice. And it's great. And it's TKD and he's great at it. So he would train me. So he's like, all right, Ron, do this. This is my horrible Aussie accent. And I'm doing it, and I just look horrific doing it, because it's not my thing now. Yep. And that's a certain muscle you build to build that attribute, and I ain't that guy.
Yeah.
So
I know that unfortunately Taekwondo's gotten a bad rap, just because of, I think more so because of the Olympics. Everyone hears it and they think it's a sport. I'm like, yeah, that's sport Taekwondo. You take someone who knows traditional Taekwondo, they're going to mess with you.
Right. Well, yeah, in the land of the blind, the one-eyed man's king. So everybody puts the focus on what they see either in a storefront school, or a window front school that you get to look at, peek in at. But I met some killers with it, and it's great. I've heard the same thing with like Aikido. Aikido really doesn't work. Yeah, I know some people. Let them grip on you, and they're going to take you for the wild ride.
Yeah.
Yep. So,
agree.
It's just, Fosbury. You know who Fosbury is?
Yep.
All right. So think of the Fosbury flop. They laughed at him when he was doing it. They said it won't work. It's not good. And it's a standard now.
Yep.
So, I wish to God that I would have stuck it out with like Taekwondo. I think I would have been 10 times a kicker.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I'm a great ankle kicker, but I wish to God I would have done it. Being like I don't want to boo-hoo again about being shot, but it did affect me, and it did change everything.
Oh yeah.
So I'm okay with kicks, and I went more towards like, obviously I love Bruce Lee stuff, and there was some spins and all that stuff like that, but I went more into like a Muay Thai background with my kicking.
Okay. Yeah, I've been doing traditional Taekwondo for 32 years, and I'm definitely better now at body kicks than I am at head kicks with my age. So,
do you remember those days? Like I would go to kick the guy in the head and spar, and I'm like, "Hey, that's weird. It landed on his chest." It didn't reach, and I was losing flexibility. Just.
Oh, I remember crazy. A couple of my tests, I had to break boards like 4, 5, 6 inches above my head, for like some breaks and stuff like that. And there's no way I could do that right now. I'd probably pull a muscle and be down for the count. So
check out Bren Foster. I think you'd enjoy seeing him.
Okay.
And maybe your viewers might see him. It's Bren. So Bren.
Okay.
I'm telling you, probably the best kicker I think I've ever seen, or just I'll say the most aggressive. I mean, he'll drop people. The guy's a stud. Nice. You'd love him.
So I want you to think back to maybe that first class you taught back in Chicago to now. What do you think has changed the most about your teaching style over all those years?
I barely knew what I was doing. Obviously, like
Yeah.
all of us,
Yep.
it's hit or miss. I had some idea what I did or what I needed to do. And my whole thing is having the answer. And it doesn't mean I'm going to know everything, but a student's going to come up with a question. You better have something to tell them. And I try not to BS them that much, that much. But I mean, there comes a time where you're going to go, well, and you'll put in opinion versus maybe something you feel a little more concrete about. And I just remembered back then I think I was, obviously you're in front of, at Degerberg, it was pretty full school. Like at that time in America, Degerberg Academy, I think, and if you look it up, it was probably the most populated school, the biggest school. He got like a Black Belt magazine said it was world's best school. It was like, I think he had 800 people at one time under one roof. Wow. It was 600 or 800 people. Yeah, it was a lot. Wow. So classes were packed. So when you walk in and you're new and you got 50, 60 people in your class, you're like, whoa, and granted, everybody's there to learn, but there's always somebody who thinks that they got it a little better than you. So you got to kind of rise to the occasion and just stick it out there and just, I made sure what I taught is something I thought I had a good handle on, a grasp on. And, you kind of bump your way through it.
Yeah, makes sense. So how did the Hollywood thing start for you? Is that something you had plans of at any point, or did you kind of fall into it like so many of my guests?
Yeah, no. I was at the Inosanto Academy, and a guy walked in. His name is Jeff Pruitt, and people could look him up. He was a stunt coordinator, and he knew some of the guys there, Seoshia B. I don't know if you ever heard of those guys, but those some of the Inosanto guys. And he sat down. He's kind of just watching people, and he approached myself and two other guys at the academy. He goes, "Hey, we got this little movie going on. Are you interested? And you want to do some fight stuff, some stunt stuff?" And I went, "Okay, just something different, something fun to do." I didn't think it was going to turn into anything. Mm-hmm. So it's a horrible. I shouldn't say horrible. I got to stick to the brand. All right, it was a B martial art film.
Okay,
and it was called Sword of Honor. Okay, and it was like the ultra B cast. It was Rothrock and Norton and this guy Stephen Lee and Don Wilson, and it was everybody. And when I say horrible, I think I was horrible at it. So not putting them down. All right, but I did this movie, and the three of us did it. And then he had come up to me afterwards. He goes, "Hey, I got this show going." He's seen that I was safe. I think I wasn't taking people's heads off. I knew where the kicks were going. I knew where the punches were going. Mm-hmm. I was listening to directions. I even did a high fall on my first film.
Nice.
Yeah, it's crazy. He said, "You want to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah." And because I was an idiot, but I didn't know what I was doing. But he talked me through it. It's not like he said, "Go up there and just jump." But he's seen I was somewhat safe. So he said, "We have a new TV series coming out. Would you like to work on it?" And I said, "Okay, what's the name of it?" And he said, "Power Rangers." And okay, what's a Power Ranger? Because it was brand new. We didn't know. And so I ended up working on that for a while. And, that led to like a lot of other doors opening.
That's cool. Yeah, I've had a few guests on from the Power Rangers, and also the three you mentioned. I've had Norton, Wilson, and Rothrock have all been on the show too. So yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. I've been very lucky. I was just looking through your list. You worked on Mars Attacks, dude. I love that movie so much.
Did. Yeah, I was in the war room with Nicholson.
That's awesome.
It wasn't much. It was a little, but I loved it though. It was cool. And I probably could have got on more, except I had to leave because I had a seminar. So, I'd done it, and I thought, like to this day, I always talk about this. When I landed on set, they had everybody's chair, and how they'll have their name stitched in the back of it. Mm-hmm. The studio chairs, and Nicholson's name was on there, and I seen this name, Jack Black. I'm like, who the hell's that? Didn't know who he was, because he wasn't really anything back then.
Oh, he looks so different in that movie.
I know, but I just remembered saying Jack Black, and I was like, who's Jack Black? And now look, I love the guy. He wasn't in a Nicholson scene, but I think they were doing stuff on the same day.
When I lived in California, I used to listen. One of my favorite radio stations was 95.5 KLOS with Mark and Brian in the morning. KLOS. And I won tickets to the Hollywood premieres of Mars Attacks in October of 96.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Yeah. So I actually got to go, and I was about 15 feet from Jack Nicholson, and actually yelled his name and got him to wave at me. So that's kind of cool.
Cool. Yeah. There were so many people. I mean, you think about that cast.
Huge,
I
huge.
mean, years later, I was stuck in an airport with Tom Jones. So I started talking to him about Mars Attacks.
That's
So,
awesome.
it was great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just shared that one with my daughter about a year ago. My daughter is 17 and loves 80s and
Please
90s
say she
movies.
liked it.
Oh, she loved it. She was laughing
Yeah,
so
good.
hard. Yeah, that was shit.
Yeah. Because, it's got a mixed audience. Some people are like, eh. And I'm like, I loved it. I mean,
Yeah.
the is the best.
Yep.
It's like, oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah, I still have the T-shirt somewhere that I won, so it's kind of cool.
Cool.
But
Cool.
no, I'm just looking through you. So you did, Three Ninjas. You did Glimmer Man. So, was that your first time working with Seagal?
No.
No. Oh, what's
I was Seagal's bodyguard.
Oh, really? I did not know
in
that.
Chicago.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I have a long, long history. If you research it, you can find pictures of myself with that stupid cop stash, and
wow.
I think because of Guru Dan in Asanto, they needed some bodyguards. So I got a call from someone and they said, "Hey, Steven's opening a restaurant in Chicago." And I said, "What's the name?" They go, "Steven Seagal." So, okay. And they said they were looking for some security, and I was on the department so I could carry, and I had, I guess, a martial art background, so I got hired. I don't know if you ever heard of Randy Williams, the Wing Chun martial artist. So we needed another person. It didn't have to be a police officer, so I brought him with, and we both were security along with Steven's other two security guys. Like, Steve and I have a long history, and you could think what you want of him. I mean, some people love him, some people hate him, but he was always exceptionally nice to me. And, Diana and I have an autistic son.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't ask for this, but we were doing a thing for Ken, Cure Autism Now. And he donated shoes and clothes and signed everything in my son's name. Wow. So it's like, how do you not like somebody?
Yeah.
For doing that? That's like a different side of what everybody else says, the guy. And I'm not going to say those other sides aren't accurate.
Right.
But he liked me and he was good to me.
That is cool.
And I can't hate him for that, So
he's on my list. I'd love to have him on the show sometime. I put a request out with no response, but keeping the fingers crossed. So you never know.
Yeah.
So people keep saying it. I definitely, gotta ask about, because I got Diana's take on it, and I definitely want to hear kind of your take on the Sensei, because I love that movie so much. I recommend it to everyone. I finally watched it with my daughter early this year, and she loved it. And so kind of what that movie some memories.
That movie aged me.
Yeah,
it literally, because it was Diana and I. We second mortgaged our house.
Wow.
We put everything into that. And we were dead broke through most of it. We lost half our funding. One of the investors pulled out while I was driving to Colorado to film stuff. So I've already got, and here's the thing, I probably would have bailed out. I think we both might have bailed out of it, except we had so many people flying in that we said they could be in it. There were actors or people who were aspiring to be actors, and they were paying on their own dime to get there. And I'm like, we got to go. They're all doing this. I can't not do this to them. Hey guys, movie's off. And they're all out there. So we had second mortgage our house, like I said, and I was driving out there, and I had an investor who was pulling out, and I'm like, what? No, you can't. We have contracts. And they're like, sue us. We're gone. And I could have sued, but it's like the movie would have been done.
Yeah.
We would have still lost the money. So we decided, let's just move forward. So every day I was on the phone begging people, hey, can you invest in it? Would you give us a little bit? Would you, and it stressed me. I lost half my hair on that movie.
Wow.
Yeah, it was tough. And, Diana wrote, directed, produced, starred, and, all that.
Yep.
And I thought it deserved, I mean, we got through it.
Yeah.
But I thought, God, if we had the proper amount of money, what that movie could have really looked like.
Oh, yeah.
Because we were, I'm going to say this, and my wife will smack me in the head, but we were young and dumb. Mm-hmm. We wrote that thing, instead of narrowing it down, we had 30 company moves in 30 days.
Wow.
So literally, like, think of Clerks.
Mm-hmm.
You're one location for the whole shoot.
Yeah.
Every day we had to bust everything down, load it up, and move, and that's costly.
Yeah.
So we were driving everywhere. Now, granted, we had some great deals in Sterling, Colorado, where we filmed the majority of that movie. That was so accommodating. They were wonderful to us, but it wasn't the wisest thing that we did.
Yeah.
But we got through it, and it was tough. A lot of the people who were in it were really, really established actors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had Taima, who's like in Rush Hour and everything. We had Sab Shimono, who's in Tora, Emily Kuroda, all these Michael Yama. They were going, like, they even say it, if you guys look online, there's a behind the scenes, and you'll see Sab Shimono going, I don't know. I read the script and how she's going to get through it, because there was so many different stories going on, but she did it. Yeah. She hit through it. She did a great job, I thought. And especially, we were dead broke. So she was being creative. We were being creative on how to make things work and happen. And she I think Diana kicked butt.
Oh, that's an understatement. Yeah. It's so good. Such an amazing movie.
Yeah, and then we, other actors, we had Louis Mandelar, we had Keith David, who's like legend in my book, So we were just with him. We're with him all the time,
Yeah. It's so cool. And like I said, I everyone I talk to when they talk about martial arts movies, I bring that one up. Like, you have to watch this. You have to watch this movie. It is so good. It's so important, and love it. Absolutely love it.
Yeah, it led to Star Wars. It literally.
Yep. Yeah, she told that story.
Yeah, it was the most expensive business card we've ever bought. Because see, people don't know this, but the 08 meltdown.
Mm-hmm.
When we got distribution rights, or somebody picked it up to distribute it, and then they said, "Hey, we got to talk to you. We're not going to give you your upfront money." And we're like, "We got a contract. You have to." And they say, "No, because we can't." They go, I think Danny DeVito had a film coming out, and they go, "We just gave him the same phone call we gave you. If you want to get out of the contract, but all the banks, they're not giving it. We're in trouble." So we had to forego all that money just to get the distribution rights. And then Echo Bridge, we didn't make anything off in the film, and Echo Bridge is no longer a company. It's gone, but they raped us. And they know that we had no legal recourse to get them, because you have to get a forensic auditor. You got to go through all this stuff. I don't want to get into the nuts and bolts of all that, but we didn't make anything. So I was like, wow. I love and hate the Sensei. Like I said, it aged me to get through it. We had to borrow from friends, family, everybody else. I mean, I was on the phone with Jerry Weintraub, Enter the Dragon, to try to get money. Or Fred Weintraub, So, I tried negotiating with him. Fred Weintraub, Jerry Weintraub. But it didn't work out. I was talking to everybody to try to get distribution. And it ended up being friends and family that came through for a large part of that film. And God bless them. I love them to death, for it. They helped us out. And we skinnied up the budget so much. And again, it was creativity. She just, we would say die as Diana. I go, die. We got this much, and we could do this. And she worked it out, man. She's like, she was the general, honestly. Like, we're all of us thought that we had it, and she would just sit down and say, "No, we're going to do this, this, this," and she was correct. And I just soldiered along.
That's cool. I bought my copy the day it was available on DVD. So,
oh, cool. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Love it. So, what led to you deciding to start writing some books, and talk a little bit about the books you've written?
I had something to say.
Okay.
I've written 2 books. And it's so funny, because they did really, the JKD book that I did, Principles of a Complete Fighter, did really good. And I looked at it more of like a conceptual book. Like, people have gotten on me, "Oh, you're showing Kali and Tai and everything else." And it's the principles. I'm trying to teach more of like the Jeet Kune Do philosophy in it, more than the art of Jun Fan Kung Fu, if you know that differentiation.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. And so it's a big difference, and people are like, "Well, Bruce Lee fought right hand lead. You're doing it left lead, and you're showing this and this and this." And I'm like, look, it's the principles. It's how do I make myself better? And I showed, not that it's going to work for everybody, I showed my way, my philosophy to it.
Mm-hmm.
And, it's like painting. I could paint a Monet picture, but I'm not going to make millions of dollars because I'm not Monet. I got to do it my way.
Right.
And that's, the whole thing. Like, my father-in-law likes to say, I love Elvis songs when I was growing up. I ain't Elvis. I'm not going to make the money if I sing his songs. And you got to do your thing your way. And I had something to say. So I wrote the book, and we did really well. And then H&L Publishing said, "Do another one, Ron." And I go, "I got nothing to say. And I don't want to just write for the sake of writing, like just to get something out there." So I kind of held off. And I think for the most part, I got pretty good reviews. I mean, you're not going to make everybody happy.
Right.
So people have been, for the way we look at it, like the movie business.
Yeah.
100%. Nobody's going to like your stuff 100%. So what they do in a movie, like when they bring them into these little screening rooms, is you take the top 20% and the lower 20% and you throw it away and you go with the middle. Meaning there's people, no matter what you do, are going to love you. No matter what you do, they're going to hate you. So those are like your yes or no people. You get rid of them and you go to the middle and you try to see what everybody's got to say. And that's where they rate a film at. And that's the way I try to look at the book. Is, for the most part, there are some people are like, he's all wrong, he's doing it wrong, that'll never work, blah, 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 blah. And the other people are like, hey, it's, like the second coming, and I tried to look at the middle. And for the most part, it's been pretty kind. So, knock on wood, I got away with that one.
Okay.
So.
Do you think you have a third book in you?
Oh, I do. I've got something that I've been kind of toying with now. I got something to say again.
Nice.
Nice. Yeah. And so I'm working on it. I don't want to say exactly what it is, but it deals with Bruce Lee and Jeet Kune Do.
Nice.
But again, back then I thought I got out what I needed to get out. And I've been, God, how long has it been? 20 years, I think, since I wrote that book. So close to it. So, 20 years later, maybe in another 20 years, I'll have something else to say.
Okay. And
but right now, I got
what was the second book? I'm looking here on Amazon.
Oh, on knife fighting.
Okay. The defensive edge, knife self-defense. Okay.
Yeah. And I had, it's funny. If you see me today, I wear glasses. And the reason I do is I have double vision. And the reason I have double vision was at first we thought I had MS because I noticed my vision was changing a little bit. Just a little blurry. I'm 60 now, so in my 50s, I'm reading stuff. I'm like, I'm having a hard time. You're doing to hold the hand away from you as far as you can, and I'm talking about the old man reading a paper. You hold it, your arm fully out to try to visualize or get a focus. And then one day I was driving. Now picture this. I'm going to try to say it. Picture you're at a stoplight, and there's a car, and the light turns green for them, and starts to go, and that car, in my view, picture. It splits in two and I see one shoot up like a rocket, like on a 45-degree angle, and the other goes straight across the street. I was like, what the heck is that?
Wow.
And what it was is my vision, my right eye and my left eye. So if I shut my right eye, I could read fine. If I shut my left eye, I could read fine. Together, I couldn't read. But it snapped all at once and got really bad. And what it was like my horizon. If I shut one eye, the horizon is picture like just having a level and the water bead is right in the middle. It's fine. Then if I shut the other eye, it cantles up like 35, 40 degrees, something like that. Wow. It's really weird. So one eye will fight the other eye. So I have to wear glasses now. It has a prism and it bends everything to where everything looks as one for me now.
Okay.
And the weird thing is I still do martial arts. I still do everything. And it's like if you and I were working out and we're doing sticks or swords, and if you have two and I have two, I see 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So but I've figured it out. I've, knock on wood, I've not hurt anybody, but I can full on work out. I still stick spar or knife spar, every, I'll still kickbox or wrestle, but my vision is just whack and, got to deal with it. Life goes on. But what happened was I was stunt doubling, Dinah's love interest in the Sensei, Louis Mandelar.
Yeah. Yep.
You know he is, right?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I was his stunt double.
Okay.
And, I had to, we're doing this movie. It's The Cursed. You go see it.
Okay.
Again, it's one of those movies. And I get thrown by a monster from a second floor and I got to hit a first floor banister. And then I have to flip off that and I have to fall to the ground. So, I'm jumping under my own power. The monster's there to make it look like he chucked me off the banister, off the second floor. But I had hit the railing funny once and I hit my chest. And, I remembered the sound guy going, come here a second, you'll have to hear this. And he played the audio for me and you could it sounds like the soul of my body just leapt out. It was like this horrible, the sound I made, I can't even duplicate it. But evidently I bruised my heart and the bruised turned into a blood clot, which turned into a full myxoma inside my heart. And my whole right atrium only had room for about 5 or 10% blood. And they don't know how I was functioning still. And it was in me for years. So, I was still wrestling and kickboxing and it didn't affect me, just my vision.
Wow.
So go back to the MS thing. By deduction, I was going to a neurologist because my eyes and the vision, they were trying to figure it out. And he just, out of deduction, he just said, I think you have MS. So, he diagnosed me by guessing.
Wow.
And which I don't know if that's how all diagnoses work. A more concrete proof, but he did that. So we started looking into alternatives, what to do. And Diana, again, the general, she researched and she found stem cell therapy. This is like, I've had the operation 7-8 years ago. So then that was a year before that. So it was before, like, nobody had really heard much about stem cell at that time. Put this way, I think I've heard of it. I just never knew anybody who did it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we investigated, and she found a place that did it, and insurance wouldn't cover it. So we were going to have to pay for it. So we decided, all right, well, I was dubious. So we interviewed, I asked the doctor, I said, do you have anybody who's had this done? My neurologist was not happy about it. He's like, it's snake oil sales, about having that done.
Yep.
So we researched it, and I asked the doctor, do you know anybody who would talk to us? And because of Hippocratic oath and so he can't give a name out, so he asked a couple people, and I had two people I spoke to, and one was an elderly woman, and she was bedridden. And she said, after I did this, a week or two later, I was up moving around. She goes, I now clean my house. I'm doing great. I went, cool. And I spoke to a professional musician, and she had it. And she was like me. She had double vision. Her right side of her body was really affected real bad. And she couldn't play the piano or anything anymore. And she said a couple days afterwards, her vision straightened out. And she's like, I play the piano. She goes, I just ran a marathon. I'm doing great. And I said, how long ago did you do it? She said, 2.5 years ago. And I go, and you're still good. She's like, I'm awesome. So I'm like, I'm doing this. I'm sold. So we went through the process. And because I was over 50, you got to go in for an MRI.
Mm-hmm.
So I go in for the MRI, and the doctor said there was a slight depression on my heartbeat. He didn't think it was a murmur. Let's be safe, go and get you checked out. Let's get an ultrasound. And on the ultrasound, the doctor came in. Well, no, I could remember the guy who was first doing the ultrasound, and I could see his eyes get real big. He got up and left the room.
Wow.
And he came back with the doctor. And then she had a couple people, like male nurses or whatever. They flanked me, and they're like, how are you feeling? And I go, I'm good. And, oh, by the way, I was supposed to fight Seagal. I was supposed to leave for Romania to go fight Seagal in a movie.
Wow.
And so I did this just to get it over with before I went out there. So when they came in, they're like, how do you feel? I go, I'm good. They go, we want you to stand up, walk around. And they got on each side of me. I'm like, what's going on? And they go, they're just there, just make sure that you're going to be okay. And I go, why? What's going on? And then she said, look at this mass in your heart. And she showed me the ultrasound. She said, you have no room for blood. We don't know how you're operating. You're going to pass out and fall. I go, I just did a Thai thing the other day, like 10 rounds. I'm fine. And they're like, no. And they didn't trust me. So they got around me. They made me kind of just walk in laps around the hallways of the building where the medical center was. And I'm like, I'm fine. And they go, well, you're going to need this operated on it. I go, well, I was supposed to leave for Romania. Can I go and do this movie and then do it? And they're like, no, you need emergency surgery right now.
Wow.
Yeah. So we went, and they were going to do it of all days on my birthday, September 2nd. So Diana had my birthday party on September 1st. And I remember, like, Guru Dan came, Josh Barnett came, a whole bunch of Hollywood people came.
Nice.
And I was joking around calling it my goodbye birthday party, and which wasn't making Diana very happy.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
But yeah, so it wasn't MS. It was this mass. And what it was, the tumor was so big, it was breaking up, and it went into my brain and gave me, like, I don't know, mini stroke or something like that affected my vision. So in essence, the vision thing saved my life.
Wow.
Because I wasn't feeling anything. So the vision thing, it was like they considered like Occam's razor. It's like one problem exists because of something else going on with you. So on September 1st, on my birthday party, I got a call from the hospital, and I was supposed to have Ronald Reagan's heart surgeon was going to operate on me, which was kind of like, ooh, that's kind of cool.
Nice.
So they said, the operation's off, Ron. And I go, why? And they go, well, your surgeon just had a stroke. I was like, what?
Jeez.
So I ended up getting operated on a week later, September 11th of all days.
Oh, wow.
And and they thought it was an appendage. Now picture a Christmas tree ornament. So they ended up cutting the tumor. It was burrowed into the right wall of my heart. So they had to cut the right wall of my heart out. And they replaced it with my pericardium sac. So they fashioned a new wall in there, and the pericardium sac, I guess, is kind of like dense, thick tissue like your heart. So they spackled that in, like I like to tell people. And I asked the doctor, I go, is it done for me? Martial arts don't work like that. He's like, no, go live your life. And I go, what's going to be the prognosis? He goes, you're going to have double vision. I can't help you with that. You're going to have a scar on your chest. So I got through it, and I do everything. I still do stunt work. I'm still, I'm still doing everything. And the guy I was mentioning earlier, Bren Foster, he had called me about 2 months after. Well, he called me a month after, like the first month after heart surgery, you feel you're 100 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And then right after that, I started to feel myself. And he said, "Hey, Ron, we have a sword fight in this show." And I'm like, "It's a modern day show. You got a sword fight?" And if you know anything about the TV show, The Last Ship,
Yep.
it's almost about, what is it? A disease is, like a picture of the pandemic we were going through.
Yeah.
And everybody's dying around the world. And it's this Navy ship out there trying to survive. Well, he got to this, my episode is, he gets to this island and I'm supposed to be a French Polynesian, and I got like this Maori type, not Maori. Well, yeah, I had the full face tattoos and stuff like that. And I had a machete. He ends up having one, and we end up dueling. And
That's cool.
I asked my surgeon, "Can I do this?" And he's like, "How do you feel?" I go, "I feel pretty good." He goes, "Well, do it." So that was kind of my barometer to see if I could keep doing this stuff, because we had a hardcore fight. And at the end of it, they have what they call honey wagons, is your trailers to like kind of like change in or resting if you're there a long time. So I went to the honey wagon. I passed out after the fight because we had this whole long fight. And then I just went, "Oh my God, I really felt that. Maybe this hard thing did affect me." So I got up and I went over to Bren's trailer and I knocked on the door, and he answered. He's like, "Yeah." And I go, "Are you okay?" And he goes, "I'm worn out, dude." I went, "Oh, cool." I felt a little better. So
awesome.
yeah. And so now I'm back to doing it all, and, I ended up fighting in the Cold Steel Challenge, and I did I think knife and sword competition.
Nice.
And right after that, and I won it, and I went, okay, maybe it's not over for me. So,
That is so cool. Wow. And what a story.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm so glad everything worked out, but I mean, that's kind of
Yeah, me
scary,
too.
but also great recovery. So
Yeah. Well, the doctor said, "Look, you're not 75 years old and you're not 75 pounds overweight. You're going to come back quick." And he was right. So, yeah.
So talk a little bit about Mars Action Group, kind of how, what that does and what you guys are involved in.
Well, there's a big, broad thing to Mars Action Group.
Okay.
Mars Action Group involves my martial arts that I teach everywhere. It also involves our stunt work. That's why it's Action Group.
Okay.
So a lot of people are like, all right, because it's Martial Art Research Systems makes up Mars. And so why Action Group? And we just wanted to make it a broader term to where I have training that I do seminars. I have online training, and then I have a stunt division, Diana, and I say I mean both of us. And we have a crew of stunt guys that work with us on shows that we get.
Okay. You guys stay pretty busy with that then?
Yeah. In fact, I should be on a show right now, except our lead had to have emergency surgery. So we're off for the week. Yeah, I don't think it was, I'm guessing they really didn't tell us, but it made it sound like it's an appendix or something like that.
Okay.
So it's going to be fine. So we're just off for the week. But otherwise, we'd be on a show right now, and I'd have some of my guys working it.
How often do you do like the online trainings and stuff?
Oh, no, online. Well, we have online live, and then we have online videos. So I offer courses. You can go on right now. It's free to join it. You get my book for free now, that JKD book we've been talking about.
Nice.
And it doesn't cost anybody if they go to ronbalicki.com and just click on training, and you'll see online training. You're welcome to join it for free. There's a lot of free stuff on there, but then there is a pay part where you get like full courses and you can get rent.
Nice.
And so we offer that. And the pandemic kind of brought that out more.
Yeah.
Because I had a lot of students who were everywhere, and I have a lot of people who could never get to me.
Yeah.
I teach as far as Saudi Arabia, and people are like, I can't get near you. I can't see you. What's another way? And because of the pandemic, it kind of forced my hand even into ranking. So we do Zoom ranking, where I'll jump on with a bunch of people, or we offer two ways, either Zoom, or if it's countries we can't get into it, Zoom. I'll let them do it via like YouTube. They'll upload it on a private server and they'll send it to me, and I can watch everything and say, this is good, change this is great. And then ranking through that. Now, some people, there's a love-hate to that, just like I talked about movies and everything else. Some people are like, oh, how are you going to get good with online training? Look, if that's all you have and if you really want it, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
And you make of it what you want. And it's been good. I've stayed with it. Pandemic's gone. Things are going good again. I'm doing seminars again. But I just decided, let's just keep it going, because I've touched a lot of other people I normally wouldn't be able to get next to.
I think a lot more people believe in it after the pandemic, just because that proved you could do it. I think before
it forced our hand.
Yeah, exactly. A lot more people were against it, but I think a lot of people came around after the pandemic and to online training and video training. So that's good.
Yeah, so it's going really well. We have a big giant base, and we just redid the site, so it's looking better and better. We have new programs that we're about to put out, but I mean, there's got to be thousands of hours on there. I think I'm not
Nice.
even exaggerating that.
Wow.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of material.
Okay. I will definitely put a link on when the episode comes out for sure. So that's good.
Cool. I appreciate it. Yeah.
In all your years of martial arts, is there one philosophy you've learned that is at the top of your list?
Yeah, and oh, we talked about my start.
Mhm.
When I first started getting next to Inosanto, like to where he knew my name finally. They had come into Chicago, he and his wife, and she couldn't go with, and they asked, Ron, would you take Sifu Dan? He wants to go meet this kung fu or go watch this audita class. So I said, okay, and I drove him out to another part of Chicago, and we went in and we watched the class. And I was sitting there watching the class with him. And my father-in-law, again, no ego. It's like, wow, that's great. And, like they're just complimenting it.
Mm-hmm.
My ignorant butt was like, really? Because I watched Inosanto and I watched how dynamic and great he is.
Yeah.
And I seen these guys who I thought were okay at best, and they're hopping around doing their thing. And I was like, kind of okay. And after the class, the person knew who he was and came up, and he was extremely grateful that my father-in-law was there.
Yeah.
But he's like, oh my God, he was there. And my father-in-law was like, that was amazing. Wasn't that Ron? I'm like, oh yeah, that was great. and I'm, and this, you gotta remember, this is like a 16, 17-year-old kid.
Yeah.
That's how old I was. And, when we left the school, I go, you really liked that? He goes, let me show you something. And he started doing stuff. I was like, wow, that's cool. He goes, that's what they were doing. I go, really? He goes, yeah. And he goes, I don't know if I don't remember verbatim what he said, but I think in my mind, I think they were going through the steps and maybe they didn't fully understand what they had going on. But he recognized it. And it was so beautiful, so dynamic. And it was such a big lesson to me to just shut up and watch and listen.
Nice.
And not judge. And that was a big thing for me back then, because I thought I was coming into my own. I was getting to a point where Inosanto knew who I was.
Yeah.
I might have been 18 by then. I think we had a couple of years together, but I was a fool. I was an idiot because I just predetermined everything they were doing was garbage and he was, the Messiah. And I was so wrong. And he's seen value, and he gave me his little belief was you could learn anything from anybody, even if it's what not to do, and
Nice.
and that was a big lesson for a kid, and it stuck with me. It sticks with me to this day.
So do you think if that lesson would have come from anyone other than him, it would have stuck?
Hopefully it would have, because it's a great lesson, but
Yeah.
It was from look, I looked up to him so much,
Exactly.
And here I see this guy being totally gracious and non-judgmental and seeing the value of what they had, where this blind person that was with him wasn't looking at anything but to get out of there and get the real training. You know what I mean? And I was so stupid because I couldn't see the forest because the trees were in the way.
Right. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's great. I like it. All right. I have a few fun questions to wrap up the interview. Now, this
Okay.
one doesn't have to be 4. I've had as few as 2 and as many as 8, so it's kind of up to you. But 3, 4, 5 names you would put on your personal Mount Rushmore of martial arts. And I can pretty much guess the first one. I'm sure.
Yeah. Obviously, I won't even name him, but he'd be my number one.
Obviously.
Okay. Do I have to name him or should you name him?
Oh, no.
Okay.
I think everyone knows that's
I think
Mr.
the audience
Inosanto.
does.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So there are people. All right. I fought him. Greg Nelson. We talked about him.
Nice.
Look at what that guy went through.
Yeah.
Cancer. They thought he was going to go, and he kicked cancer's ass.
Yeah.
He's in my eyes, he's a hero. I look at him and I look about what he's given back to people. He's kind and he's talented, and he walks the martial walk.
Yeah.
To me, he really does. God, other names. I got so many names. I don't want to be mean. Fiery Boys. Do you know Fiery Boys Ajak?
No, actually, I don't.
God, look him up. He owns Team Karate Center. I teach at his school now. So does Benny the Jet.
Okay.
And he's amazing. As far as knowledge in how to operate, his martial ability is amazing. But his knowledge on how to run a school and his kindness. Fiery Boys is... I'm going to tell a story. I don't think he'll be mad at me saying it. When he was a young man, he moved to California from Iran, and he didn't speak a lick of English, and he was on an airplane by himself. I think he was like 15 or something like that. He had to get out of Iran. There was problems politically, and I think his mom was scared for him, threw him on a plane to go live with his brother. So I'm just telling the story. It's just such a great story.
Okay.
So they land in New York, and his flight's canceled. He's got to wait till the next day to get on a plane and go. So he's got a day in New York to go walk around and see it. And the date is October 31st. And he has no idea what Halloween is.
Oh, wow.
So he's like, why are these people all bloody? Why is this person? This is America. His first impression of America is Halloween day without knowing what Halloween is. It was awesome. I love it. But, this man, he's so talented as a martial artist, first off. But as a school operator and owner, his knowledge is, I believe he was the go-to guy like in the 80s, 90s on how to operate a school.
Wow.
Just brilliant. And like one thing I'll say real quick is picture he had this poster and it was a map of his system. So what it would be like, everything somebody needed to know to get to from white to yellow to green, whatever the color system he had going. And he would put for every student, and he had a school kind of like Fred Degerberg's, like a ton of people in there. So he had little pins, stick pins, and he would like write a number on it. And a number was a master list of names of everybody on the school. So wherever you were, if you got ranked, that pin moved along the map of where you were. And then if you quit, he would pull that pin out and put a red pin in there. And when he would get a cluster of red pins, he would go up and say, we got a problem here. Let's figure this out because people are quitting here. And I thought it was brilliant. He would make his all the teachers and workers learn sign language. And not cool. Just to be there not to be there just for the deaf, but to communicate with each other. Hey, Billy's got a problem with his kick. He would sign them. So that person would run over without saying, hey, can you over here help Billy? Or, hey, there's somebody at the front door. Go, get to the front door. Or, cool. It just really smart, I thought. Yeah. That way you're not broadcasting. And then he ended up doing like a 3x5 cards or 3x9 or what is it? 3x5 or whatever, like small
like recipe cards.
Yep. Yeah, recipe cards. And he got them the color of the belts. And he would put your picture on it. And then he had on there everything that you needed to get to the next belt. And when you would get to the next belt, you'd get a new card. Your picture would go on that. And all the cards were there. You'd have to, when you come to the school, you'd have to go and look up your card. And you'd see Billy over here. Hey, why is he a belt ahead of me? Or, you know what I mean? And nice. It was just all the way to black belt. And I thought it was a really brilliant system. He developed all that stuff.
That's cool.
And his charitable side, I just remember how many people he would help. Like he wouldn't even know them, but he'd be like, hey, I heard this person has cancer. So he would do all these fundraisers and give all the proceeds to that. I remember a real famous case, you might have heard of it, in LA on the freeway where some kid was killed on a motorcycle. He was thrown so high, he hit the sign over the freeway to go to like another exit or whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. And somehow he knew somebody who had known that family. He didn't know the family, but he's like, they don't have insurance. Let's jump in. And he does so many wonderful things for people. He's one of the people I really admire. Tom Callos. I don't know if you know Tom Callos. Another person the same way. If you look him up, he was involved with the Ernie Reyes group. And he's the same type of individual. He develops all these programs. He's a great martial artist. But his whole thing is just being a good person and trying to help the community. And I really admire that. Nice. I maybe it's my roots. I grew up with nothing, and any helping hand is a good thing. And they got that whole pay it forward thing. Just do something good and help people. So I admire people like that. As far as fighters, Yuri Nakamura. Do you know Yuri?
Yep, I've heard the name. Yep.
Yeah, he's my shoot wrestling instructor. I feel he's probably the closest thing that I've ever seen to a Bruce Lee type character, and his talents like that. And this guy stress tests everything. We're in the ring fighting, and he's obviously he was middleweight champion of the world in shoot wrestling in his day. And I just remember, like, there's a lot of sambo in shoot wrestling. And I just remember him, like, we'd all be in there sparring, and he would grab me and throw me, and he'd be airborne with me, and I'd be locked and tapping before I hit the mat.
Wow.
And just brilliant martial artist. Nikolai Sunyak, Savat.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Nikolai? I don't know if you ever heard of Nikolai. Oh my God. He won the French Cup in Savat.
Okay.
And, that ain't an easy task.
No.
I mean, that pretty much says he was the best Savat fighter there was of that year. But when I first met Nick, really pleasant, wonderful, humble guy. But I looked at him, I go, it doesn't look like much. I got in the ring with him, and he schooled me, just tore me up. And when I was fighting, you know how everybody will say, hey, we'll come in, we'll spar, get your rounds in.
Yeah.
I'd get there, and nobody'd show except Nick. So, a lot of my training was just him showing up for me, being there for me to help me get ready for my fights. So, I mean, we're going to hang up and there's going to be 100 other names I think about.
I tell people because everyone's like, give me your list. I'm like, yeah, my list would change every day.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Those were the first people that came to mind.
Hey, that's a good list.
Diana's amazing. She's been my sparring partner, and and she does, God, her contribution to myself and a lot of other people, her giving part has been a big lesson to me. And I really, I'd be remiss if I didn't say her name.
Yeah, definitely. So, that's cool.
Yeah.
All right. Now you can't pick one of your two favorite martial arts book.
Okay. So I won't go Bruce Lee. I won't go Inosanto.
Okay.
I am going to go with a couple odd ones. One you might know is anything Don Drager on C-Lot.
I've heard so much about him. Yeah. I've never read one of them, but many of my guests have mentioned his books. So
yeah. And then there's a book. I don't know if it's really a martial art book, but Dan Millman, The Warrior Athlete. I think they renamed the book Inner Athlete.
Okay.
And Dan, you ever read like The Way of the Peaceful Warrior, stuff like that?
Yep.
Okay, if you look up Warrior Athlete or Inner Athlete, that book changed me, man. It was just great because, like he did martial arts, but he was a gymnastics teacher, and he would compare it, and he would like the philosophy. I think he took it from martial art though, where he trained his classes. Like he'd have classes all day long, different grades coming in to train with him. And like he started experimenting. In one class, he would train everybody 80% physical, 20% mental. And then he would swap it on the other class. And, the people who trained more mental and only 20% physical were whooping butt. They were crushing it. And it was a big lesson for me. It's just an entertaining, good book. Okay. And I feel it helped me martial art wise more than most of the other books I've ever read.
Nice. A couple good ones there.
Yeah.
Nice. That's why I like that question. I always add more to my own list. So
yeah,
I get to go shopping.
There's another book, Sharpening the Warrior's Edge.
Okay.
It's by Bruce Siddle, Siddle. And that book, I really took it in. He was an underwater diver. It's about martial art, but he compares it. He was an underwater diver. I'm going to ruin part of the book for you, but it's really good. And underwater, his reflexes were way better than on land. And he's like, why? And he couldn't figure it out. And he realized that he almost had blinders on. So like when you get into trouble, I don't know if you felt this. Anytime I've gotten into like a type skirmish, you get tunnel vision, right? Your whole world closes. And the reason it does is your brain's saying, stay focused just on this, and you cut out the whole world around you. Well, underwater, you got goggles on. It's cutting out a large part of the world already. So it automatically puts you more in focus with what's directly in front of you. In the book, he teaches on how to broaden your vision, stuff like that. But I thought it was pretty amazing thinking or really like looking at it. And here's another tidbit of me. When I was a kid, I worked for my dad. And he owned a golf ball store. Nice. And I spent my childhood scuba diving for golf balls. So I related to it right away.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's horrible. It wasn't fun.
Yeah.
But like most of it was mucky. You couldn't see. But when you could see, I really related to the goggle thing because he's right. You do focus more. So the calculator, being your brain, can process what's going on directly in front of you and whatever hazard is there. But how do you widen your vision? And I've come up with like a lot of different things on how to broaden it, because like when I was a policeman, you can't get tunnel vision. You got to look at your surroundings. You got to make sure that nobody's coming up on your sides when you're dealing with that person right in front of you. And that book helped me a lot. So I wouldn't per se, it was a straight up martial art book teaching you like a how-to on style. It's more philosophy. It's more concepts.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Now this one you may not have an answer for. It's about 50-50. Do you have a favorite martial arts video game? Did you ever get into games?
God, no. Let me think though. No, I remember playing like Mortal Kombat a couple times, but I never got into it. And then it was funny as the whole Mortal Kombat thing. I ended up training Robin Shue for a long time, who played was it Liu Kang? Not Liu Kang. Yeah, Liu Kang.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. That's cool. All right. How about a favorite martial arts TV show?
Ooh, any TV show?
Yeah. I mean, one that has a strong focus on martial arts. Yeah.
Oh, I mean, I have a guilty pleasure with Warrior. I think that Shannon's done a great job with it.
Such a good show.
Yeah. And some of the guys that are in it, trained with me.
Yeah.
Like Jason Tobin, who plays the Maniac's son.
Mm-hmm.
He was in shoot wrestling class with us.
Nice.
So I was always with Jason, before he made it.
That's cool.
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, it was Kung Fu, but then, now I watch it, I'm like, really?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I get that.
But, I know Chuck, I like Chuck, but I never really got into Walker. I'm trying to think
Oh,
of what other
okay.
martial arts shows there were.
Yeah, like,
Oh my God.
Highlander. Some people have picked
Highlander was rocking.
Into the Badlands. People have picked that
Oh,
one.
Into the Badlands was great. Diana
Yeah.
was they had some special like Q&As for like red carpet events,
Mhm.
and they actually brought Diana in to be the moderator for Into the Badlands. I did
Oh,
like
that's
that show
cool.
though.
That's cool.
That's probably one of the better ones, and I would have not thought of it had you not brought it up. But yeah, I would say it was one of my favorites. Was Into the Badlands. I was sad that it ended.
Yeah, it ended too
I thought
soon.
it
It could have
deserved a
easily
longer
got
run.
2 more seasons out of it easily. So nice.
Exactly, and I thought there was more story to tell.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely. All right, this one you
Yeah,
can't pick
yeah.
one that you've been in. Favorite martial arts movie?
That I've been in. You know what? Some people get on me, but like two-part answer. Bruce Lee films. I loved Way of the Dragon. I loved the Chuck Norris fight, but I
Yep.
loved it because I thought he told the story of Jeet Kune Do as an adaptation.
Yeah.
Because he's getting his butt handed to him a little bit, and all of a sudden he assimilates to it and overcomes. But honestly, martial art like Ong Bak was also awesome.
Yeah.
But if you had to ask me, like one that hit me hard was Above the Law, Seagal.
Yeah.
And the reason it did was it was so visceral versus other films. Like I loved Billy Jack, growing up and stuff like that. But Above the Law was in your face. He was scary. He's snapping and breaking people. I was like, holy crap. I'll keep it PG.
It's all good.
But he, that would be like my guilty pleasure was that. I just thought, wow, and you wouldn't think that it would work for film. Like had it not been done, who thought of doing it? Nobody. I mean, it took that, and I'm still waiting for a good movie with grappling.
Yeah.
And I really mean it to like tell the story of it. Not that there hasn't been some nice grappling moves in a movie, but I would like to see something really aggressive. I just did a movie a year or two ago with Michael Jai White called The Island.
Yeah.
And we tried to put a lot of, like, it's funny because the producers were like, we want John Wick, Ron. So I had to kind of up with these snappy, breaky things. And Michael Jai White looked at me and he goes, man, are you marinated in evil? And I started laughing. They wanted to make t-shirts saying Ron Balicki marinated in evil because all I was doing was just breaking people, just snap this, crack this, break this, kill them here. And it's a little bit different fight than I think he was used to.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that would be cool to see a good because I love the one-off movies that like Only the Strong, where the first movie that really featured capoeira, or like Perfect Weapon, the first one to feature American Kempo. The ones like that that are where every other one yes, there's some amazing movies, but they all feature the same stuff, and it's cool to have those ones like that are different.
Yeah, you're 100% correct. Because if you think of like Only the Strong, Mark Dacascos, who I love, I think as a human, I love Mark. Diana and I, we know him and we think the world of him. But it's the standout for capoeira. People think Only the Strong, and then Kempo is the perfect weapon, and I think Way of the Dragon, more than Enter the Dragon, everything else, I think it tells the story of Jeet Kune Do.
Yeah. Huge fan of the movie, and I actually just got an email from him today. So a little spoiler for my listeners: interview with Mark Dacascos coming soon. So that'll be cool.
Yeah, and brilliant guy, super intelligent man. Ask him to speak German for you. He lived there. He's so fluent.
Really?
Wow. But my Diana's and my manager, his name's Tarek Heitman, who's from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
We're all out eating. All of a sudden, they start going off. I was like, holy cow! And he's like, well, I lived there. I think he went to school there.
Okay.
So, but I know Al, his father.
Yep.
And just amazing family.
Nice. Yeah, I actually just got a message from Al yesterday, so working on that interview too. So hopefully get to interview all of them. So, all right, final question. Same thing, not one you've been in. This doesn't have to be a martial arts movie. Any movie you've ever seen, favorite movie fight scene?
Doesn't have to be mine. It's so hard. So many things come to mind. I love guilty pleasures, Ong Bak. I love the stuff in that.
Yeah.
Favorite fight scene would, again, Chuck Norris and Bruce Lee.
Yep.
God, holy cow, you're doing this to me. I wasn't ready for this. You know what? Okay. How do I say this without being like, there's one fight I got to do where the director let me have at it and make it the way I wanted. And it's a little known movie called The Prodigy. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I've seen it. Yep.
It's cool. Yeah. And that fight with Holt Boggs where in that, that little hallway thing, he let me have at it and let me make the story how I wanted to make it. I mean, I think maybe one or two things he said, hey, let's change that for this. But otherwise, he was like, Ron, just do it. And I had my way.
That's cool.
And I liked it. And it's what I wanted to see out of movies, which, nowadays with John Wick, all this other stuff, you see a lot of the snapping and breaking stuff. But I think that I had fun with it. And I think it was like, I tried to tell a little bit of grappling in it. There's like a hair of it. I didn't want to go too far.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to show the fear of being confronted with a knife and not just being the big hero who's going to be like, come on,
Yeah.
And so I just kind of like tried to treat it as, obviously no fight's going to play out that way. It is a movie.
Yeah.
But I wanted to give respect to all the aspects, being fair, having to like rise to the occasion. If you remember, we have him in the water, like I was trying to drown him.
Yeah.
It's funny on that fight scene at the end, I ended up being a loser. Obviously, if you've seen the movie, you know it. But at one point, Holt had me under the water and I was under there for a while and he's so into it. And I could feel him like just squeezing my neck, choking me. And then all of a sudden he catches himself and he lets go of and he's just pushing on my shoulders. He came out of the water. He's like, dude, I'm so sorry. I'm like, it's okay. I couldn't breathe anyways. He wasn't choking me out, but
cool.
He was a fun fight. And I went off your question, but so I kind of like,
that's good.
I'm not trying to be conceited with it, but it was just what I always desired. So if you wanted to see like what I like to see in a movie, I would say that still holds. It still holds for me. And I won the Action on Film Festival for, I think they gave it like best action movie or something like that, or it was because of that fight.
That's awesome.
And so, yeah, it was fun to do. And then Diana was attacked by me, my character.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Nice. I thought of one more quick question. Is there one actor that you haven't been able to work with that you'd love to, that's maybe on your wish list? Who's someone you'd really
Tom Cruise.
Like? Tom Cruise? Really? Yeah. Okay.
Tom Cruise. Yeah.
Cool.
I know people who know him and like some people get turned off because of like the religious thing or whatever, but I don't care about that. He doesn't bother me. He ain't hurting anybody. You believe what you want. But I just think that the guy's so thorough. People that I know who personally know him say he could probably be the best stuntman who ever lived if he wasn't Tom Cruise.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and I just think that his stuff is really poignant. I have some friends who fought with him in movies, like Jack Reacher and stuff, and they just said working with him was beyond fun. And he actually, like, one of my friends, he goes, hey man, meet me tomorrow morning at like 6 a.m. So we went and met him. He goes, make the fight better, let me show you this. And he's giving like an acting class. And I go, did it help? He goes, oh, most definitely helped. He goes, it was so much fun after that. And yeah, he's somebody that I just think that you're not going to lose. I mean, you'll lose in the fight, but it's going to be a hit. He's got the Midas touch, and it's all quality. I mean, name something that action wise he's done that sucked. Yeah. There's really nothing.
Oh, I know.
People talk whatever, but there's nothing. The guy's gold.
No, and I love. I was just another one of my guests. We brought up Last Samurai because he picked that for one of his favorite movies, and it was like
amazing, so
good.
Yeah, and I've worked with his stunt double a lot, who did the Last Samurai, Lil Shochan, and he's amazing guy. And wow. I mean, it's just. You're not going to lose being in a Tom Cruise movie. It'd be great.
I hope you get to, man. I will definitely go see it if you do. So that'd be fun. But So before I let you go, anything that I forgot to ask you or that you want to get out there really quick before we wrap it up? And this is, I truly appreciate the time you've given. This has been awesome.
No, let me see. I thought for sure you'd go into Star Wars. You didn't, so that's kind of cool.
I thought about it. Yeah, because I'm a diehard fan, and I loved Book of Boba Fett. So but I'm sure you've been asked that a lot.
Well, yeah. The one thing is, it was nice. We talked about Mars Action Group. So Diana had got the call from the studio. Like I think Filoni and Favreau needed to fill it, and they couldn't get extras for that fire dance thing. I don't know if you've seen the baptism with Tamora.
Oh yeah.
And so that was all our people. So I brought in Diana and I got, I think it was 14, 15 of our people, and it's all of us dancing around being idiots. It was great. And it was nice because Tamora Morrison kills Diana and I in the movie Barbed Wire, if you watched that movie. Wow. So I was with him on the set, and I'm in this goofy Tusken Raider outfit. And here's my horrible Aussie impersonation of Tamora Morrison. He's like, hey, everybody, this is Ron Balicki. He and I were in this amazing movie called Barbed Wire, and everybody's laughing at us, and it was great. But like it's 20 years previously, I'd trained him for Barbed Wire, the Pam Anderson film, and I was supposed to double him, believe it or not, because he looks massive, big, but he's the same size as me. But he ended up having it so well, they're like, just let Tamora do it. But then I go, who are you going to get to fight? They go, well, you fight him. So I ended up fighting him, and then we had a stunt guy there. And he was having a hard time, and Diana was there. So I kept going, Diana, can you jump up for a second? And she would do everything. And all the producers got together, and they're like, do you think Diana would do this fight with you? Because it's what they call ND, a nondescript role. Mm-hmm. So I asked Diana, do you want to do it? And back at that time, Hollywood was not that great to people of Diana's type. Meaning they didn't know how to typecast her. She wasn't white. She wasn't Asian. She wasn't black. She wasn't Hispanic. She was a little of everything. But she could be a great person doing that. So I go, Diana, do you want to do this fight? And she's like, yeah, I'll do it. And it was fun. And it kept her going. Like her stunt career was way better than mine. She was getting bigger movies, but she's an anomaly. Yeah. She's 110 pounds of fire, and she could do anything. And so she was getting asked to do everything, where I was like, hey, what about me? But her whole love and want was always acting. So, we Disney and George Lucasfilms or Lucasfilms and Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, they spotted Diana in the trailer for, because they were looking for an actress who really knew martial arts. And they were scouting around, and he's seen female martial arts actress, whatever. Diana's picture came up. They watched the Sensei, and they're like, that's our girl. Bring her in. That's so cool. And yeah, it was great, and she's knocked it out of the park. They love her. I love them. They treat her like a queen, and it's amazing. So, God bless Disney and Lucasfilms. They're treating, changed our lives. It's good. Awesome.
And I'm a diehard Star Wars fan. I mean, I honestly remember 3 years old going to the original Star Wars in 1977 in a drive-in theater with my dad. So
I should send you something. We're going to put something out. I can't send it. It's going to be out though, but I can tell you what it is.
Okay.
We have an autistic son. I think I mentioned that. And he has no inner monologue. So like he'll come up to me and say, hey, Dad, I can't tell you, but we're having a surprise birthday party for you. It's just whatever's. That's awesome. So we're under NDAs, and we're really strict with Star Wars. Yeah. So nobody knew for a year and a half that Diana, like I was helping her with the fight, and we just kept it quiet, So I put a camera up on Thanksgiving Day, on Bruce Lee's birthday, it was middle of COVID, or at the start of COVID. And when the premiere of Mandalorian came out, where Diana does the Jedi episode with Rosario Dawson, I had put a little camera up. He didn't know it was up. So we turned on Disney at midnight. It started to play. And I have the show's going, and Sebastian's watching it. He doesn't realize that's Mom. And then when he starts to realize that, I captured all that, and it's amazing to watch it. And yeah, so it was like he was just blown away, and it's a really cute video. And then, so a couple of years later, I do Boba Fett, and I go, Sebastian, you watching this? He's like, yeah. And I go, that's me. And he's like, oh, cool. I was like, wait. So yeah, he's all blown away for Diana, and for me, I was like, oh, yeah, good.
That's so cool.
Nice. Yeah, so we're gonna we have plans for that footage, so that'll go out. So that's why I gotta kind of keep it to me, but it's cute footage when you see it. It's kind of like what's his name? Emily Blunt's husband. God, what's his name? The Quiet Place. What's his name?
From The Office.
From The Office, exactly. But he has feel good news. We wanted to go out to a show like that.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
so cool. You have to let me know when it comes out.
Kaczynski, right?
Yeah, John.
John Kaczynski. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm saying it right. Yeah. Great guy. But I love his feel good news. So we wanted to do something like that for it. It'd be cool.
That is so cool. No, that's very Krasinski, John Krasinski. That's it.
Krasinski. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Good guy. Really good
awesome.
guy.
That is awesome. Well, Ron, I got to thank you, man. This has been such a blast. I could talk to you for another 2 hours. Seriously. It's so much fun talking to you. You're an amazing,
thanks for having me.
Seriously, an amazing storyteller. You really are. And I can't wait till you get another book out. I'm going to sign up and get the other one. And I can't wait till the episode comes out, because I think people are going to love this one.
Cool. I appreciate you having me on. So I look forward to listening. I'm going to go back and I'm going to listen to a bunch of your stuff. And, I'm going to stalk you.
Thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist. We hope you will join us every week for a brand new episode with a different martial artist telling their story. If you enjoy the show, be sure to leave us a review. Also, be sure to check out our website at everydaymartialartist.com. There you can find all of our episodes and contact us to suggest guests and ask questions. Again, thanks for listening to Everyday Martial Artist, and we'll see you next week.